And then we get to part 2, where Little Nueng arrives back home after a long afternoon of getting rejected by the super hot goddess Big Nueng.
That's a long day.
Which is such a rough afternoon. I mean...
She looks so sad.
Oh, well, I mean, she does not want to go home. You can tell she is dreading entering this house. And I know that this feeling is the absolute worst. I had nothing near bad as her. Like, oh my gosh. But a place that is supposed to be safe and a refuge for you, and it's just hell for her. And that's why she spends more time at Nueng's shop. Big Nueng's shop. So like the poor girl is trying to sneak in, but is stopped by her grandmother asking her for the results of her test. So not asking, how are you doing? How was your day? No, you got the results of your test today, right?
Yikes.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Big Nueng also arrives home, without a care in the world though, and gets stopped by the only person who has some sort of power over her. Her landlord. And her landlord is rightly annoyed and asks for the rent.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute, though. She's annoyed because the bitch comes home with bags of food. So she just went out shopping. And then this woman's like, you owe me money. What the hell are you doing?
That's also true. That's kind of like throwing it in her face. Like, I'm just not paying you.
Yeah, you're like, all right, I'll pay you. I gotta eat. What do you want?
Nueng says that is like fully unfazed by this landlord. And it's like, I'll give it to you tomorrow. And the landlord gets more pissed off and says, it's only 8,000 baht and you still postpone until tomorrow. So this is about $221.48 USD. And I would just kill to have that rent. Like, I pay more rent living with my mother than Big Nueng. Granted, it is a different country, a different cost of living in general.
Still.
And then due to a later scene, her first meeting with Little Nueng, I believe she charges 100 baht for a portrait, which this means she would have to draw 80 people just to make her rent, which doesn't include taxes, the store rent, living expenses. I don't think that this business model is working for her.
It's definitely not working. That's why her broke ass can't pay the landlord.
I think she should just go to college with Little Nueng and learn business, because something's gotta give here, girl.
Well, yeah, you can't go talk to Sam either, because she don't know a damn thing about business either.
No, not at all. We'll get into that in a little bit as well. Actually, we'll get into it next.
I do love that the landlord is just so over Nueng's broke ass. And she's like, you better not fucking swindle me this time, bitch. It's so funny. Because
we find out that Nueng has borrowed rent money from Sam for the past 6 months. So basically, I'm assuming that Big Nueng is just paying rent at the end of the month instead of the beginning of the month at this point. And is just always asking Sam for money. I don't know why she just doesn't do it in the beginning of the month, so she doesn't piss off the landlord.
But also, like, it implies that, like, for 3.5 years, she was making rent. So, like, what happened?
Oh, yeah.
You know? She's gone for 4 years. So, like, what happened in the last 6 months, Nueng? She left the Isle of Lesbos. That's what happened.
She met Little Nueng, and all of her portraits became Little Nueng instead of other people.
That's probably actually what happened. And I think she charged her so little because she looks young, and she's like, I'm not gonna charge you by full. There's like $10 or whatever the hell.
She's like, she's cute. I can look at her for a little while.
That's literally what happens.
But all I can say is that Sam is a very kind sister.
She is.
Sam isn't worried about Nueng paying her back. She is worried that if something happened to her, Sam, Nueng wouldn't be able to survive in
this exchange is
like that is a. And then, like, it seems like a legit concern. But Nueng says if something happens to Sam, all her stuff would become hers anyway, so she will be fine. And like this, I was like, how is that a thing? Because that definitely is not the case in like a typical family. I don't know if this is like a royalty thing, but I don't know. But I'm pretty sure everything is going to Mon. No. Like,
I think Mon would fight you for that. No. Anyway, I think realistically, if Sam were to drop dead right now, everything goes to the grandmother. She's the oldest in the family. But I don't know. Yeah, Mon puts up with so much shit from Sam. She deserves at least half the money, no? Like, you wouldn't get it all. Let's just give Mon her dues, okay? Good lord.
Mon's worked hard for.
Mon has been through it. She deserves a reward. But I love that exchange, though. It's really funny. And it was very nice to see, again, coming off of Gap, like, that these two, and their relationship at this point in the show is very sweet. Like, I love that they have gotten into, like, the habit of, like, talking to each other, and they can even talk about things like money. Whereas, like, in Gap, it was, like, Nueng harassing her for money. But, like, here, it's the other way around. Sam's trying to, like, take care of her, which is a bit of a switch. And in the scene you were talking about, instead of saying Sam, Nueng calls her Tulik, which means little one, which is such a cute nickname for her sister. It's fucking adorable.
It is. Sorry, I was trying to remember the right pronunciation. I think you got it right.
It's cute. And I just love the way that the show goes through great lengths to show that Sam and Nueng both look out for each other, despite the fact that, like, at this point they just recently reconnected after, like, years of not talking, you know?
Yeah, but I like how Sam is trying to recruit her to the company. And it's like, many of my friends want Kun Nueng to work at the company. And here's my theory. And where we were 10 minutes off. Jim is freelancing at Sam's company.
Oh, God. Okay? Can you imagine?
And will only go into the office if Sam can get Nueng there. And I could see Jim crushing very hard on Nueng since Sam is taken. And he's like, I mean, look at her.
Well, Jim be like, if I can't have Sam, I can get the older sister. No, Jim, absolutely. That was one of my gripes. I'm like, how have Nueng and Jim not crossed paths? That seems unlikely. And they do cross paths in the book. So, like, they do. They are on speaking terms. So, validation.
Oh, Jim's in the book?
Very briefly.
But she's in the book.
She's in the book. As she should be. It's Jim.
Where was Jim?
I forget what the scenario was. But it was like she was there. I don't know. Sam and her friends were at something. It might have been the school reunion thing because they all went to that school. Remember when they have the centennial party in the episode 4?
Yeah, the episode where all the shit went down.
Yeah, so in the book, Jim, Cade, T are all there, and, like, Nueng makes a comment about Sam's friends who, like, literally say whatever the fuck is on their mind, and, like, Jim has a conversation with Nueng. And I was like, see, this makes sense.
That's cute. I'll make that scene up in my head. That's good. Anyway. So Nueng says that she isn't suitable to be a salaried employee who works hard every day.
Either is Sam.
But I'm like, same Nueng. If only that was actually possible.
Literally.
But then Sam says she's also a salaried employee. And Sam... Don't you own this company that doesn't actually do anything? Like,
and you don't do anything? You literally admit that you only come to work to stare at your wife. So, like, okay, Sam. Okay, Sam.
I was kind of confused by this conversation.
I know. Well, remember the grandmother's in the room? So, like, Sam's trying to be like, I am a good employee. And they're like, yeah, okay, Sam. We've all seen the writing on the wall. I'm convinced at this stage Mon owns diversity and the whole company, and Mon just runs it, and Sam just kind of funds it when they're in money troubles. Like, she's Mon's assistant at this point. Let's be real. One thing I do love about their exchange too, when it comes to the money, is that Big Nueng insists that she's, quote, borrowing the money from Sam, and that she fully intends to pay her back. And at this point, she's like, hey, I'm really close to selling one of my paintings at a gallery, so, like, that'll be big money. It's more than, like, what she was getting commissioned at the market. Because think about the market is supposed to, it's not shading on markets, but it's like a lower scale place than the mall. The mall's like where big money, people spend big money. Market's like less money. So, like, she can't charge that much. But to a gallery, she can charge a lot more for her paintings. So anyway, she's like, I'm about to make a big sale, like, and I'll pay you back. And she keeps this ledger of how much money she owes Sam. So it's demonstrating that, like, she is determined to keep her promise. She's not just like mooching off her younger sister. And she really is set out to make this life of her own, like, work. Like, even though she's on the struggle bus now, she's like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to, like, you're just temporarily supporting me. I'm going to pay you back, kind of thing. So I do love that about their relationship too.
Something we don't see in Gap. Like,
No.
it was just fully Nueng being like, give me money.
Oh my god, my favorite moment in Gap, and it's in the book, I think more so than the show, is when Nueng ends up, when Mon and Sam are fighting, because when are they not? And Nueng calls Mon, and she's basically asked Mon for money, because she's like, you're dating my sister, which, you're my sister's wife, which means you have the money now. And Mon is not talking to Sam at this point, and Mon's like, whatever, and then just gives Nueng her own money and, like, never tells Sam, or, like, it's very cute. It's very Mon, but, like, Nueng is just, like, out here being like, give me money to everybody. It's so funny. That's how she made rent for 3 years. She's just begging.
Probably.
Okay,
well,
so then, I think Nueng,
right.
wait. Remember Gap? Nueng was on the Isle of Lesbos. I think Nueng was very popular on the Isle of Lesbos, and so her art was like flying off the shelves. You know.
They were like,
I wonder
like
why.
A French girl.
I wonder why. Yeah, I'm sure she had French girls out there. Let's be real.
Okay, so then Sam and Nueng talk about how much she needs, and Sam's like, is 20,000 enough? And Big Nueng's like, 8,000's fine. However, then Sam asks when she is returning to the palace, which makes Big Nueng immediately hang up. I'm like, didn't you need that money, Nueng?
Well, it's like she's drawing the line in the sand. She's like, I will not be controlled by the grandmam if that's what this is about. I don't want your money, Sam.
Which she still does, but like
she does.
She's not coming over. She's not doing
very
it.
Stubborn. She's super stubborn. That's what they're trying to show.
Yeah, and then we see that the grandmother was with Sam during this conversation, listening at everything, and smugly asks, "Got hung up on again?"
Such a bitch. Some things never change.
Nope. She doesn't tell Sam that she doesn't have to transfer the money, and it was Nueng's choice to leave to paint, so let her figure it out on her own. And I know the grandmother is hoping that she will fail hard enough that she will want to come home. But Sam knows that Big Nueng is more likely to willingly die before coming home.
Yes.
And Sam's like, but it's been 4 years.
Right.
You got to get over it, Grandma.
Right.
She doesn't say this. But she should.
Agreed.
So Sam sends Nueng 20,000 baht, which is around $550 USD.
Sam's such a good sister.
And Nueng's like, oh, cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, that. Okay. So now we head back to Little Nueng being terrified in her own home. But she's not terrified right now. She's staring at the drawing that Nueng made her. She should really ask Big Nueng to do a self-portrait so she can stare at that and not herself.
Right. Girl was not. She's just no thoughts when she's in front of Big Nueng. She's like, you draw whatever you want. Well, because like the thing that she likes about it is when Big Nueng's drawing her, she's like intently staring at her, and I think that's what she likes more so than the photo or the painting.
So she's like looking at the photo but remembering the time that it was drawn.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But she needs at least one self-portrait at this point to like have both of them.
What she could do is like, okay, set up a mirror and then be like, I'll pay you double, but you need to draw yourself with this mirror and I'm going to be over your shoulder. That way she gets both. Double? No, I'm going to be like, whatever. Whatever you want. I got rent to pay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we see that there are marks on Little Nueng's leg, which it does not look good.
No.
And
gross.
Then her grandmother enters her room to ask why she isn't sleeping yet. I'm curious to know what time it is and like what time she's supposed to be going to bed. But Little Nueng says that she is studying But of course the grandmother doesn't believe her. And like rightly so, because she's staring at a drawing and she has figured out that she can hide things. That's what happens when you are not allowed any freedom. But I'm impressed that the grandmother actually knocked on the door before entering.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Because it is framed like this girl has no, like, little to no privacy. Not girl, she's a young woman, has like little to no privacy in this home.
Well, I think for this right now, until like we establish the ages, it's okay to, because like as a viewer, you're thinking that she is a child, so I think it's okay to,
because everyone treats her like a child, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but whatever.
But once you find out her actual age, you're like, bullshit. Like,
this is absurd. Right. Anyway, so what I think is important to note from the scene too is not just that she lies to her grandmother, but how easily she lies to her grandmother. So it implies that little Nueng has been lying to her grandmother for quite some time. Like, it's like second nature, this like instinct to like protect herself. And what's really heartbreaking in the scene is when you're going to talk about it, when the grandmother comes close to her and you just see her panic because she's holding basically like she stuffed the portraits under her notes and be like, look, I'm studying for real. And then when the grandmother comes near her, you just see her like get ready to get hit. And it's just horrible. Like this poor little.
It is terrible.
Terrible.
Like, she doesn't have anyone in her life to actually show her love.
No.
The fact that the grandmother was coming over to actually just be kind of loving, but I feel like it was still like putting her authority over her.
No, she's
as well.
Yeah, I mean, the grandmother's also traumatized. We'll get into her shit later. But yeah, they're establishing she's overbearing. And Little Nueng has all of these learned behaviors to protect herself, like lying, flinching, covering things up. Because, like, look at the household she's being raised in. Like, she's trapped, you know?
Yeah, and then she puts on a fake smile to get the grandmother out of the room.
Correct.
And then it looks like she's fine. And then it's immediately when the grandmother closes the door, you could just see the weight come off her. She's like, I made it. I didn't get hurt. I can go back to looking at my drawing that Big Nueng made me.
And who does this behavior remind you of? Like, put on a smile when you're sad or scared or whatever. This is what Big Nueng taught Sam and her sisters to do. So this is like the consequence of like being in this controlling environment. It's like, whatever I need to do to get you to leave me alone, I will play the game with you to get you to leave me the fuck alone. And then the minute I'm alone, I'm going to be me. Because like all this behavior doesn't stop Little Nueng from being who she is. It's just she has to do it behind closed doors. So the minute she's behind closed doors, she like can look at the painting again, and then like she goes on her bed and like sighs like she's free, you know? And I think one thing she gets out of her relationship with Nueng at this stage, because nobody knows about Big Nueng, only she knows it. So it's like she has this secret in a way that's like something that just belongs to her. Like her grandmother has no idea. She goes and sees Big Nueng after school. And so her grandmother can't control that aspect of her life. So I think that is also liberating for Little Nueng at this point, to have just something that she can call hers. And I think maybe that leads to like the kind of like quote, the obsession she kind of has with Nueng at this point, or the attachment, because it's like, it's safe. You are safe for my grandmother too. You're not only a safe person for me to be around, but like my grandmother can't control any of our interactions either. Like, I don't know that she's ever had that before. I think that's new, which is really sad.
I feel like she was trapped in the house.
And she's not even trapped in the house, too, because later they talk about, like, Big Nueng's like, why don't you have friends? And basically she's like, well, because my grandmother terrorizes all of them. So, like, she's not allowed to have anybody in her life. So, like, this is probably one of the few relationships, platonic or whatever, where her grandmother's not interfering, you know? It was just terrible. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Just, like, my heart breaks for her. She's just, like, the fact that she's such a strong person is just wild and just very admirable, you know?
The confidence, man.
She's resilient as fuck.
I don't know where she learned the confidence.
It's genetic. We saw Chet. It's genetic. Her confidence is genetic. Wait till you see her mom. This shit was genetic. Anyway.
Somehow. how is confidence genetic? Anyway. So then we get another scene, and Sam's taking Big Nueng out to lunch, because that's the only way you can get Big Nueng to do anything, is if you buy her food.
In the book, she's so broke that she's always like, I can't afford not to eat. So, like, please take me out.
That's also fair. That is,
yeah, it's reinforced a lot. She's like, well, ramen or whatever the hell Sam's gonna buy me. Sam, let's go out.
But before Sam can do anything, Nueng reiterates that she will not see the grandmother. Like, she's holding these boundaries very clear. And, like, she knows that Sam just wants everyone to get along, but she's not willing to put herself in that situation again as of right now.
Which is
because she's finally protecting herself after years of doing stuff for other people. I think she's still at the point where she needs to protect herself.
I think this is also her, like, final stand, the hill she's willing to die on kind of thing. So, like, Sam, we know from Gap, like, really, Sam is like the people pleaser. She's the peacemaker. And she's, at this point, playing middleman between Big Nueng and the Grandmam. And she's and her motivation is to get her family back together, because, like, finally, like, Nueng, her sister, appeared after a few years, and she's like, no, let's get the family all back together. We're all we have left, which is very on brand for Sam. But in this conversation, what I thought was really interesting is where I think there's more to Nueng's refusal to see the Grandmam than just, like, I'm doing this for me. Because in this conversation with Sam, Nueng brings up song, which I thought was really interesting. I'm like, why is she bringing up song now? And so to me, it hints that she has some unresolved feelings when it comes to her sister Song, because she asks Sam, between me and the Grandmam, who do you blame more for Song's death? And I think that's something that's been weighing on her for quite some time. And Sam doesn't answer this. And when Nueng tries to push the topic further, she trails off, and, like, Nueng looks really guilty. Like, so I think that this question she poses to Sam, like, who do you blame more, me or the Grandmam, is her projecting. I think that she, Nueng, blames her grandmother for her, unhappiness, and also Song's, but I think she also blames herself for Song's death. So I think part of her motivation for avoiding the Grandmam is that the Grandmam never changed her behavior after Nueng fled. Like, instead, she kept doing the exact same thing. She just started focusing on Song, then Sam, and, like, ultimately it, like, led to Song's death. And then watch Gap, you'll see how unhappy Sam was when the focus ended up on her. But, like, Nueng is out here, like, trying to, like, Nueng learned from this, big choice she made to basically cut out toxic family members, is kind of what she was doing. And Nueng learns from that and grows. And you see her evolution of that throughout this show. But the Grandmam never learns from that. And that kills Nueng. That she's just like, why don't you acknowledge the role you played in this? And I think that's partially why she won't go back. Because she's like, until the Grandmam admits that I was unhappy because of the role she played, and, like, gives me an apology and apologizes to my sister Song, like, I'm not going back there, because then I'm just going back into the toxic environment. And, like, for what, Sam? To make you happy? I love you, but no. So I think that's part of it too. It's just like, why repeat history,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, their relationship with the grandmother is so complicated and fascinating, but, like, I like that Nueng is still on the journey of processing all of that, and, like, the consequences from that, like, breaking off point,
That family just has too much trauma to process, and it never does get fully processed together.
No. And it doesn't get fully resolved either, and that's okay. That's real life. Sometimes it just doesn't, and, like, you live with the consequences of these actions, which is, like, a lesson Nueng learns the hard way, and that changes her behavior in this whole show. And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube.
Please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing super gay content.